Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million online rendezvous. I'm coming to you live from Menlo Park, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley. You are probably in different time zones joining in from your evening after dinner time or tea time or maybe lunchtime. But wherever you are, good day to you. We are in very, very strange times. At 1 million by 1 million, we are trying to remain productive while also remaining sensitive to what's happening in the world and following very closely where we are going with this new normal, with this new threat to the world. 1 million by 1 million, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue, build $1 trillion in global GDP and 10 million jobs. So our work is almost entirely with small businesses. And this is a situation that has been terrifying for small businesses. So we are trying our best to be there for our community. And what I find very reassuring and very encouraging is that people are continuing to make progress. And, you can only be a good entrepreneur if you have nerve. You go through crisis after crisis. Some of it is macro, which is what we are seeing now. Some of it is micro. You experience crisis as you are navigating your ship through turbulent waters that are micro crises that are relevant to you. It's a crisis for you, not for the whole world. Even that has to be navigated. So entrepreneurs do well if they have nerve to go through really tough situations. So now we are in an unprecedented level of crisis. We have had crises before. I personally have been in the technology industry since 1994, and I've gone through the dot-com crash, which was also very, very threatening and very scary for a lot of people. Then I've gone through the 2008 financial crisis. That was a global crisis, and it devastated a huge part of the economy and took us a while to get back on our feet from that as an economy, as a global economy. And now we have this. And in between, we also had 9/11, which also in America, at least, it was a massive blow. So I have seen 4 macro crises, and of course, in the lives of our entrepreneurs and in my own life, I've seen lots of crises, micro crises. So it is something that we have to deal with. So I think what I'm going to do, by the way, just to give you a sense of how you can work with us through all this, our workflow has not really changed. We have always been a virtual accelerator. Right from inception. That was in 2010 when we launched. We've been a virtual accelerator, and our workflow is just the same as what it has been over the last decade. So we work virtually, and you can access us virtually from anywhere in the world. I am one of the most easily accessible people in the startup ecosystem. You can come and work with me at any of our free public roundtables over WebEx, usually on Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So there in those sessions, you can bring your project, whatever business you're working on, and I will work with you on your strategy. So these are safe working sessions. They are free, and you're very welcome to join us anytime. Over 150,000 people have participated in these sessions. And you can go to our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables, and you will find recordings of every single prior session there. That will also help you learn by listening to those. You have a lot of time right now, so you're very welcome to listen to those and learn. They follow a case study-based learning methodology. Now, today in these sessions, we are right now live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and whichever of these touch points you are joining us from. In these sessions, I do mostly Q&A. We collect questions from our various different other touch points, and I answer those questions here at those sessions. And as a corollary to that, you're very welcome to ask me questions in the public chat in your respective platforms, and we will monitor those questions, and we will pick up those questions and answer them next time. And some of it I will answer after the video session is over, online right after this session. So let's go to the first question. The first question I want to take today is, how can a small business survive in the coronavirus shutdown? Of course, this is a question that is on the minds of every entrepreneur out there. So I'll give you a generic answer, but then I'm going to go into more specifics depending on what kind of business you are running. So it's going to be a while. This answer is going to take me a while to fully cover. And I will, since many of you are joining as we go along, I will try to kind of keep the question anchored throughout the conversation on this topic. And feel free to ask questions on this topic as much as you like in the public chat. So the first question is, you have to extend your runway. If you have 3-month runway, you have to turn that into a 6-month runway. If you have 9-month runway, you have to turn that into a 12-month runway. And that's just absolutely a prerequisite. And to do that, you have to be as frugal as possible. You have to conserve cash. You have to bootstrap. You have to survive. You can dream big only if you're alive. You can't die in the process and still be able to dream big, because you will not be able to realize your dreams if you die in the process. So you've got to survive. You have to keep your business going for as long as possible. And to do that, you're going to have to bootstrap. You're going to have to be frugal. Even if you're a funded company, you still have to bootstrap with what you have on your balance sheet. The cash that you have on your balance sheet is king, and you've got to work with that for as long as possible, assuming that your revenues are going to take longer to come in, your financing is going to take longer to come in, and that's just the reality of the current situation. There is no going around this reality at the moment. So that's my first feedback to you. Now, given that that's my feedback, I want to also deal with some of the nuances of where we are, what we are doing, and so forth. So, you have a small business. All small businesses are not the same. So the first thing we should do in answering this question is segmentation. What segment are you in, and what stage are you in? Let us say you're a small business in the travel and tourism sector. This is going to be about the toughest time you have ever experienced for a long time, because people are not traveling right now, and people won't be traveling for a long, long time. So you're going to need to figure out how you can strategize, how you can pivot, given your current situation catering to that market. So we have a company in our portfolio that in their core strategy, their enterprise sales strategy was selling to hotels. And over the last couple of weeks, we have pivoted that company to sell to a different segment, where they have applicability. And we discovered that museums are really struggling to monetize right now, because nobody's going to museum, because it's a related industry, and museums need to find a way to monetize. And this company has digital art frames that are photorealistic. So if you have a painting that you showcase digitally on their technology, it looks like it's a real painting. That's the technology, and they were planning to sell to hotels. They had some success already, but hotels are not going to buy this at the moment. So that's not a strategy that we can go forward with. So we decided to create a whole, business plan around selling to museums, and that's what they're testing right now. So this is pivot. This is what a really, substantial, dramatic pivot looks like. And you are going to have to potentially think through what you have today, how you're doing what you're doing, and pivot yourself to something that is more viable. Let's take another example. Let us say you're a restaurant. A lot of restaurants, even though this is not necessarily what we do, we don't, our accelerator works with digital startups. So we work with technology and technology-enabled services companies. We don't accelerate restaurants, but I'm just talking generically at the moment about small businesses and their survival strategies. I think if you're a restaurant and if you can do home delivery, if you can use your kitchen and your staff to do home delivery, that is the best way for you to move forward, because we have extended shutdowns at the moment in most of the world. So people are having to prepare food at home, and some people who are not used to cooking as much at home are getting tired. And there are geographies where people are not used to cooking their own food. They have staff, and these staff are not coming. In India, for example, people are used to a lot of service staff, cooks and maids and nannies and so forth. And these people are not, unless they stay at your house, they're not coming. They often live in slums and in close proximity, in close density areas, high density areas. These people are not coming. So a lot of people are cooking a lot of their own foods. If you run a restaurant and if you can create home cooked food and deliver home cooked food to your vicinity, wherever, maybe a small, you can't go very far, you're not allowed to go very far, but if you go a little distance and deliver food to your neighborhood even, that may be a way to operate. Nextdoor in America, Nextdoor is a very popular neighborhood service, online service, where neighbors are often logged in. So if you are a neighborhood restaurant, look up your neighborhood and see who of your neighbors want food delivered, and maybe you can do that. So that's just another pivot, another style, business strategy change. So this kind of pivots are probably going to be necessary. And in some cases, you may not need to pivot. Our business has not had to make any change. We do exactly what we did before the coronavirus. We're doing exactly what we do after the coronavirus or during the coronavirus. Because our business is completely virtual, our business is completely global, and there needs to be no change in our workflow whatsoever. We keep going exactly the same way. But we still have to be frugal, and we have to still be able to extend our runway, because it is true that revenues are slower than where they were before. So that's the thing that you're going to have to factor in. So coming back to digital startups or digital small businesses, if you are selling technology and you're selling technology to, let's take the B2B technology sector, assuming that you have really good technology and you're solving a really important problem in your customer base, My take is that you need to continue building your pipeline. You need to continue talking to your prospects. And people have time, they're listening, there's a lot more mind share available right now. So I would say keep talking to your prospects. If you're in the 1 million by 1 million program, you should use our curriculum to learn the Sales 2.0 methodology, which is what we use for funnel building in our B2B startups. That is something that if you continue to build that on that Sales 2.0 strategy, you will continue talking to people, you will continue educating your market on their problem and your solution in that context, in the context of that problem. And you will, when we come out of this, when people are ready to make buying decisions, you will have a good pipeline and you can start closing deals. So right now, treat this period of lockdown and this new normal period as your pipeline building period. You have to stretch your runway and you have to build your pipeline. That is the best strategy when it comes to B2B at the moment. That is, I think, the best strategy. So as far as our B2B work is concerned, I keep reaching out to our, partners, people who want to work with us on, building their own accelerators through our Incubator in a Box program. And we keep having conversations. And some people would say now is not the right time, we will talk in June or we'll talk in July. That's fine. But you build that pipeline for, doing things in due course as things normalize. So that's my number one guidance to people who are doing B2B technology companies. Let's switch to B2C. I think I will take the B2C question in 3 different buckets. The first bucket is if you are doing B2B e-commerce in essentials. If you can be in B2B e-commerce in essentials, you are in a very, very strong position right now. And let's take the example of all these, going back to food. Food is an essential right now. And if you are delivering food to people, including groceries, you may have heard me talk about ButcherBox or equivalent services. There are these online services that send you meat in boxes or farm fresh groceries and stuff like that, whatever groceries effectively. That's very helpful. We have been using ButcherBox for meat and they deliver it. It's very helpful. And, these kinds of companies are doing really, really well. So if you fall in that bucket, you're in a good situation. Your business is probably doing a lot better than what it was doing before this virus. We have a favorite cheese store. It's unpasteurized French cheese that's shipped from France called fromage.com. We have been using them as well. And again, very helpful, delicious stuff. So these are just examples of the kinds of B2C businesses that are doing really well. On the other side, though, if you have non-essential B2C, you may see a slowdown. Depends on what, right? Depends really on what, because again, now the segmentation is, are you selling into the lower income or middle income categories where people are struggling, people are losing their jobs. There's all these, service industry workers, factory workers, they're all airline industry workers. These are people who are not buying anything because they can't, they're losing their jobs, they're getting furloughed and so forth. So this is a sector that is not buying. On the other hand, if you are selling into digital consumers, people who are digital workers and they're working from home successfully and their jobs are intact, those people probably are okay. And that's a segment that is probably still buying, maybe not as aggressively, and maybe they're not in the mood to buy as aggressively, but they're still buying some things. And, it really depends on what your product is, what your business is. So that's where I'm going to leave that conversation. If you want to discuss your strategy, if you fall in that bucket, and if you want to discuss your strategy again, come to one of the roundtables, and I'll be happy to work with you and explore what are your options and how you can deal with the situation. Of course, there's a third segment in the B2C bucket, that is the travel sector. If you are selling to consumers and you're dependent on their travel, whether it's hotels or tour guides or any other kind of tourism related business, that is a very difficult segment to make work right now. So then you're going to need to really think about what can you do and how can you pivot. And again, I'll be happy to talk to you. If you are doing a digital business, our accelerator is mostly for digital businesses, it's not for all small businesses. So come to a roundtable if you're doing a digital business in one of these sectors. But if you are, then we will be happy to work with you. So those are some categories that I wanted to highlight. There's one other category that maybe is worth calling out in this discussion about how do small businesses survive. So the discussion is about various segments and various categories of small businesses and what could be their strategies. Marketing. If you're selling marketing technologies or marketing services or media buying, this is a category that is going through very tough times at the moment, because a lot of companies with big media budgets, big marketing budgets, are holding back on their media budget. So advertising spend is going down and so on and so forth. So, and it's all related, right? It's all interconnected. I saw somewhere Airbnb canceled like an $800 million advertising budget, media buy. Well, of course, Airbnb has to do that because Airbnb is struggling right now. Nobody is going and staying in Airbnb situations. So if you're an Airbnb host, you're struggling, and Airbnb itself is struggling because of this complete drying up of demand. So that's probably my very long answer to this question. But overall, I'll summarize my answer by saying, stay frugal, keep bootstrapping. Even if you're a funded company right now, you're going to have to bootstrap as much as possible and make your runway last. If you have 9-month runway, you need to extend that to 12 months. If you have 3-month runway, you need to extend that to 6 months, and really stretch things out so that you can survive this period and stay alive to see another day when you can dream bigger. Right now, survival is the essential mantra for all small businesses, and there's nothing to be ashamed of in this struggle for survival, because humanity is facing a threat. So it is no wonder that businesses are facing threats, and we are all in this together. The whole world and the whole world's businesses and the whole world's small businesses are experiencing a global experience, a once in a lifetime, once in a century global threat. So, be gentle with yourselves. Stress is normal. Stress is to be expected. If you feel down, if you feel depressed, well, that is normal. There are people dying. There are, millions and millions of people who are struggling, suffering, physically suffering, mourning their loved ones, dying. How can we not feel sad about this situation? How can we not feel depressed about this situation? I personally feel quite overwhelmed by the magnitude of suffering that is out there at the moment. And sometimes I just don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like working. I don't feel like, being productive. And that's normal. That's human. The other thing that I have to say, my experience in this has been, I read a lot of media, and I have, a few trusted sources. I'm open to reading things from other sources as well, but they have to be credible sources. There's a lot of garbage floating around in the media right now. So you have to be careful not to read that garbage and get wrong information, misinformation. But there are excellent sources, like The Atlantic is doing great coverage, Wired is doing good work, Technology Review, MIT Technology Review does good work, New Yorker, New York Magazine, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, New York Times. These are all credible sources. CNN is doing very good work. CBS is doing very good work. For me, some of my friends have said that, oh, we only watch news a day for 1 hour, and it's too much, it's overwhelming. That's not been my experience. I actually read a lot more. And I'm trying to understand the issues. And I'm trying to understand, most of all, the timeline of what are we dealing with. Because this timeline is going to determine how we are going to navigate this and how long we are going to have to continue in this mode, and what are going to be the variations of this mode. So I'm going to give you a little bit, this is also contextual, how can small businesses survive this? The timeline factor is really, really important in planning ahead. So I will talk to you a little bit about what my readings and my research say about the timeline. The real conclusive end to this nightmare is going to be when there's a vaccine. A proper vaccine with proper testing, proper approvals, FDA and everything, is going to be 18 months away. So we're talking about the fall of 2021. There will be no vaccine-related solution or vaccine-induced solution to this problem until the fall or winter of 2021. So not until 2022 are we completely safe from this virus. So given that that is the timeline, that is the real timeline of how long we are going to have to deal with this virus in one form or the other, we are going to be impacted. The economy is going to be impacted, and it's going to take a while to fully come out of this. So all the things that I said earlier about the travel industry and its, deep problems will persist for 2 years. Because people won't feel like traveling with this kind of risk, lurking in the corner. Not pleasure travel. They will do some amount of family travel. They will do some amount of business travel, but I think business travel is going to be curtailed hugely. Pleasure travel is going to be curtailed hugely. So that is one timeline that we have to take into account. Of course, there are drugs that are going to come in. And the good news is there are existing drugs that are right now being tested in trials and controlled trials to see if they are legitimately applicable to the coronavirus situation. And there are some very positive indications. The combination of hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin is one combination that is being tested and that is working. We know actually people personally who have been given that combination and it has worked. That research came out of southern France, from Marseille in France. Dr. Didier Raoult is the one who came up with that solution. Of course, there are issues. People with heart conditions have to be careful about that, because overdosing and pre-existing conditions can create heart attacks and heart incidents. So there are all kinds of issues around that combination, but there are other drugs. There's a whole bunch of remdesivir and all kinds of drugs that are being tested right now, existing drugs that are showing indications that they may be able to mitigate the coronavirus situation. So, this is all going to take a few months to come with conclusive evidence, but it's possible that in a few months we have drugs to deal with the situation. So that if there's treatment, then okay, if you get coronavirus, fine. If you get coronavirus, you get a mild dose, okay, it's like a flu, you experience that, you stay at home, quarantine yourself, don't go mix with people and give it to other people, but it's manageable. Now, if you have a more intense situation, you can be given the drugs, you can still stay at home, quarantine, not give it to other people, you can be treated, you recover, you have antibodies, and you can go out to the world. Then there's a third condition where you have a serious situation and you have to be hospitalized. Again, you can be treated maybe in the hospital, so on and so forth. And hopefully the bottleneck there of ventilators and medical equipment for the healthcare workers, all this kicks into gear and you get, we have a more manageable situation, more manageable numbers, more manageable situations. So because if you're treated early enough with proper drugs, not that many people will end up in hospitals, and the hospital systems are not going to get overloaded the way they have been in Italy, in New York, in Spain, and so on and so forth. So that's a scenario where in about 3-4 months, we have a more manageable situation. So I am guessing that the global lockdowns are going to continue until the end of May, early June, even mid-June. Slowly, it's going to get relaxed. Parts of the economy are going to get relaxed and parts of the economy are going to get out and start functioning. So the combination of economic activity resuming, drugs becoming available, the healthcare system being less overburdened, probably by about August or so, we have a more manageable situation. There is another wild card that is being discussed all over the world, which is what is the impact of heat? Heat, some people believe, this is not proven, it is not for sure. So it is a hypothesis that heat, especially 38 degrees centigrade, which is about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and that kind of heat, the virus doesn't do well. The virus thrives in about 5 to 11 degrees centigrade, which is, relatively cold. There are a lot of parts of the world that are quite hot right now, easily in the 80s, and parts of India, parts of tropical Asia, parts of Africa are in the 90s, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so which is in the 30s centigrade. So these parts the numbers are very interesting, actually. One of the cases that I'm observing on a daily basis, actually, is the situation in the Dharavi slums in Mumbai. This is a very densely populated area. 800,000 people live in this slum, and there are a relatively small number of cases and a very small number of deaths. So the question that I'm asking is, how is it that an area so densely populated is not experiencing, huge numbers? How come tens of thousands of people are not infected in an area like that? They are testing, so we'll know in the next couple of weeks, we will know what is the result of this experiment, and does heat have anything to do with it? What is going on there? It will tell us a lot. So I know we have a lot of people listening from India, from Africa, from places that have these conditions, very dense populations, and also heat. So let's see if heat is good news or not, and if that is going to give a respite to those parts of the world. And as summer comes in other parts of the world, is that going to be a mitigating force? Of course, that leaves another timeline question open, which is, are we looking at a second wave in the fall and the winter and next spring? Which means, and we have to take this possibility into account globally. The fall of 2020, the winter of 2020 leading into 2021, and the beginning of 2021 is going to be another, troubled period. Hopefully by then we have drugs, which will be a big difference maker. We don't have, at this point, if you look at the timeline that I started off with, vaccines don't come for 18 months. So we don't have vaccines until 2021, late summer or fall, which means the second wave of the coronavirus potentially is being still dealt with without vaccine, but possibly with drugs, which will also make it a lot more manageable, and hopefully with a lot more equipment. Right now, ventilators are scarce, masks are scarce, medical protective gear for medical workers, health workers is short supply. All these problems will get mitigated, and we will be in a much more equipped situation in the second wave of the coronavirus, which will not overwhelm the healthcare systems as much. So we will be better prepared to deal with it. We'll have some time. This will buy us time, basically. The summer may buy us some time. So this is really what's going on in terms of timelines. This is what I think all my research, all my readings gives me this general timeline to work with. So we have to fit our agendas and our decisions into this general timeline. So, if you're planning launches, for instance, when do you time your launch? In the US, it seems like the summer may be actually a good time to work, and nobody's taking summer vacations. Nobody's traveling to exotic places. We had plans of a road trip in Ireland in late May, early June. We've canceled that. So we are going to be working. All of us, I think, are going to be largely working. And therefore, we are going to be working through the summer, most likely. So in the US, I think the summer may be a very good time to actually launch stuff, product launches and so forth. I don't know what is going to be the condition this summer in India or in Africa or in some of the other Asian countries. We will find out in the next 2-3 weeks while we are still in lockdown. India has just extended its lockdown to May 3rd. So we will find out more about what the data is saying. We have to depend on data. And this is where data science is going to be incredibly valuable in navigating the coronavirus for the next couple of years. So we will know how heat is impacting things, and if heat is impacting things, then the summer is going to be great for Indian entrepreneurs to work. So, as we go along Europe is peaking right now. Italy, Spain, some of the worst affected areas have peaked, and that situation in the next couple of weeks are going to hopefully stabilize and think people are going to start resuming some normal activity. UK is still climbing. UK is probably going to peak in another couple of weeks. Other parts of Europe are peaking. Actually, France is getting closer to the peak. Belgium is getting closer to the peak. So Europe also, chances are, maybe in a better situation in the summer, and Europeans normally take big vacations in the summer, but I suspect this year people are anxious to work. So my estimate is, or assessment, not estimate, assessment, is that we're probably going to have a working summer. So a working summer may be a good time to launch products, to, do major media campaigns, do even funding drives, so on and so forth. So, of course, everything I've said is with a caveat that this is just an assessment based on the data we have right now, or the models and the speculations and the analysis. We will have a lot more data as we go along every week we have more data, we have more understanding of the virus, more understanding of what's going on, and we will keep talking. We do these sessions every week, and I will try to cover the timeline issue as much as possible. So if you're following these sessions, I will continue to update what I learn from my readings and research and processing. Um, so that's for now, that is all. If you want to go over your business and your strategy and your pivot strategy perhaps, or your immediate, next few months business strategy, this is a very good time for you to come to one of our free public roundtables. Go to 1mby1m.com and go to the free public roundtables section and sign up to come and pitch and discuss your project with me. And I will see you at one of those sessions. We have pretty much every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time, we have these sessions, and you can book a slot to discuss with me. And come anyway. If you just want to ask questions, come, and I will try to answer your questions. Ask your questions here. Whatever questions are coming to you in listening to me, ask your questions, and I will try to address them as much as possible. Be well, stay safe, and try to preserve your nerve through all this, while acknowledging the fact that we are all very stressed. It's a very depressing situation. This level of death, around the world is very, very sad and very, very saddening. It kind of sucks your energy, the mourning, the stories of people's losses. And who knows, you may be experiencing losses yourselves. So it's a, deeply distressing, deeply moving situation. Whatever gives you comfort, whether it's art or music or faith, access that to find solace, and we will get through this. Humanity always gets through things. There is loss, there is pain, there is suffering, but we all get through it. Be well. See you soon. Bye.